What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into Deep Purple's live catalog. I'm going to talk about them, going to rant about them, going to review them, going to rank them. Today, album number 9, In the Absence of Pink. Deep Purple's almost entire Knebworth festival performance from June 22nd, 1985. It was released in 1991. This is a BBC radio broadcast recording. If I have a complaint about this, I have two. One of them would be just the sound. It leaves a little to be desired, but I'm gonna argue that at least for me, the performances more than make up for it. It kind of sounds like you're at a festival. This is one of those recordings where I feel like it feels like you're in the crowd. When somebody solos, they're a little bit louder. There's, you can pick out instruments, but it's kind of this almost like flat sonic surface. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but if you ever want to find me at a festival, if you and I are at the same festival and we're seeing the same band, I will be in front of the soundboard. I love that space. The sound, I think, is fantastic. When people kind of get up close, there's that sort of like triangle of space that they kind of avoid in front of the soundboard, so it's a little more roomy. But that's what this sounds like. It sounds like a really good, you're in front of the soundboard at the venue type of performance. Minor complaint. The other complaint is they do Rainbow's Difficult to Cure. They did this often in this era when they came back after this sort of Mark II revisited era. And Difficult to Cure is pretty much Blackmore's take on Ode to Joy, right? Who is Ode to Joy? Is that Beethoven? Yeah, Beethoven's Ode to Joy. A little too Christmassy. I don't need to hear anybody doing Ode to Joy. I don't need to hear a really long Ode to Joy that then just goes into a really long Lord solo, which is what we get here. The solo's pretty nice, but he's got synths, he's got keys, he's got piano. There's a 2001 quote. It's a little indulgent. It doesn't need to be in Difficult to Cure. That's not where I want it. I kind of like the build-up into Knocking on Your Back Door when compared to this choice, because I just don't like Difficult to Cure. Other than that, this is a fantastic performance. Great energy. Feels very much like a show. One of the things I prefer, I think the release that you can most compare this to so far in their discography that I've talked about is Nobody's Perfect, which was from 2 years later. The Following Albums tour. That one, those songs were picked from a variety of sources. And so there's this sort of discontinuous vibe. Because this is all one set, it builds on each song nicely. We have a lot of kind of silly, indulgent introductions to songs, which are fantastic. The crowd energy is fantastic. It's almost the entire show. We're missing an Under the Gun, which apparently was not recorded by the BBC for some reason. And we're missing a Woman of Tokyo, which who knows what that would have been. Maybe a verse and a frustratingly short ending before we go into another song. Also, Lazy was not recorded, but they got a bootleg version of it. And the sound is pretty comparable. Great. We get 12 songs. It's a Knebworth set. Opens up with Highway Star. Lord comes out, does a little Bach intro. Then the song kind of builds. Great energy. Kind of scrappy Blackmore solo. Yeah, awesome. Awesome song to open any show with. Love this song. Nobody's Home is next. Not a song I would have picked off Perfect Strangers, but it is, I think, the only song on that album that the whole band wrote together. So it kind of makes like an obvious choice. Good energy. Works as a second song. Highway Star, you're already bought into it. Let's throw this one next. I like that choice. Strange Kind of Woman. They're playful. They're jamming it out. We got the Jesus Christ Superstar quote in there. We have them going back and forth, doing that whole thing. It's got a very relaxed festival vibe. Like we're just kind of hanging out in front of a huge crowd, enjoying ourselves. Kind of takes its time. You can hear the festival crowd chanting in the background during the ending to when they're messing around in the breakdown before they go back into the finale of the song. Fun as always. Blackmore solo. It's aggressive, but it's tasty. It's great Blackmore stuff. Blackmore is on fire this entire show. If you're a Richie fan, That's 100% the reason to get this. He is shining. The whole band is shining. Ian's yelly, kind of, but it is a festival crowd. Energy's high. Gypsy's Kiss is next. I said in Gypsy's Kiss, for the Nobody's Perfect one, they tacked on this sort of bluesy jam in the beginning that I thought was completely unnecessary. I still think it's unnecessary, but the bluesy jam in front of this is really good, and Blackmore's playing is really good, and the energy is a lot more aggressive, and it works a lot better. And then when they go into the song, it is just a ridiculously high paced. That middle written section, they're just tearing through it, like just absolutely just a blistering performance of Gypsy's Kiss. And I do think in this instance, that blues jam in the beginning is a great launching point for the high energy Gypsy's Kiss. Don't think it was as effective 2 years later on that following tour, but here it works for me. We get a Perfect Strangers, introduces Perfect Street Rangers, a football team who played in the street. They were called the Rangers. Some weird Ian story to introduce it. We get the Gethsemane, I don't want to taste your poison, closing. Sounds amazing. Sounds huge. Sounds just that groove is so absolutely epic. Amazing, amazing. Then we go to Lazy. We don't get a Lord intro for this Lazy. We go straight into the and then Blackmore kind of messes around for a little bit, and then we go into the full jam. Pretty high pace Lazy. The energy for these songs is like we're up in the energy as much as possible, kind of up in the pace a little bit. Great Lazy. Short little drum solo we get in there. That's the only drum solo we have, a short little Lazy one. Not super short, but short compared to what we would normally get. And then the first disc, this is a 2-disc set. Disc 1 closes out with a fantastic Knocking at Your Back Door. The solos in here, the energy, the grooves, the breakdown at the end, the bump, 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 playing around with the audience. He's on slide guitar. Richie Blackmore's slide guitar is just nasty, especially after the solo when he's playing like slide rhythm for the final verse. It just sounds absolutely ridiculous. Closing solo is a little more patient, a little more drawn out before we do that cool breakdown at the end. Absolutely fantastic. A great disc of 85 era Deep Purple. Absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, this is the Mark II version of this man. So this is the band. Disc 2, unfortunately, opens up with Difficult to Cure. I don't like Difficult to Cure. I don't need to hear Ode to Joy. Lord gets a bunch of solos. This is his solo section. Whole thing's about 9.5 minutes long. It's the one thing I would skip if I had to leave something off. If I had to if they found it under the gun and they had to get rid of something to make it fit, even if they found a 1-minute Woman of Tokyo, Women of Two in My Woman from Tokyo, Difficult to Cure I would take off. Space Truckin' is next. The segue from Lord solo into the Space Truckin' drop is pretty fantastic and pretty tasty. We get an absolutely sick Richie Blackmore solo that is just layers and layers of noise. It's just him literally just making like just noise. The whole thing was 15 minutes long. It's just him noise. Lord gets a solo first. Great Lord solo. But following that, we get a Lord solo. Rhythm section sounds absolutely amazing. We get a quick little musical interlude, and then we get Richie Blackmore, just like noise, scraping the strings, making feedback and distortion. And it's not a pretty solo, but it's a magnificent solo. It's him at his most noisy, distorted, messy, sloppy, aggressive. Yeah, absolutely awesome. Great, great, great. Speed King, one of Ian's better intros on this. He introduces this as a painfully slow song that they don't like to play. Kind of goes on and on of that. Kind of almost apologizes for them having to play it. Then they go into Speed King. It's a great version of Speed King. The solos are Richie and John going back and forth, just kind of trading licks that progressively get longer and longer in their duration. Not the most exciting concept in the world, but they pull it off. It's interesting. They both have interesting ideas. The back and forth works. Goes on for a while. Kind of doesn't really go anywhere. But as things start to get more creative and fall apart towards the end, the whole version's like 10 minutes long. We get a burn quote. We get a Not Fade Away jam in which Ian actually sings a verse and a chorus of it. Kind of neat, jammy energy at the end that's fun and loose and shows that they're really having a good time up on stage. Black Knight follows. Really good jamming at the end of Black Knight. This is what we go for 8 releases without a Black Knight or 7, and then all of a sudden we get a whole bunch of Black Knights in a row. That's a good thing. Kind of slow down at the end and jam this out. I think Ian sings a little bit of Teddy Bear's Picnic for some reason. End of the show. They're feeling loose. They're feeling good. I like the energy. Blackmore is amazing. He's incredible. And then we get some great Smoke on the Water. It's a closer. It's energy. Everybody likes it. It's expected, but at least they deliver. I love this release. Absolutely fantastic. This is what I like about live releases. Just give me an entire set, ups and downs. It's got flow. The continuity works. And Richie Blackmore is just on fire, having a good time. He's got a great rhythm section. There are moments where all of a sudden Glover is like, what the heck is Glover doing? Absolutely fascinating little ends, especially like little runs in some of the jams. Pace is always is fantastic. Lord is fantastic. Ian is probably the one that seems maybe a little worn down at this point. I don't know how long they've been touring or whatever, whether it's just he's been partying too hard in Knebworth. Ian seems a little rough, but it works for a festival crowd. It works for a Knebworth show. Yeah, I like it. It's a good listen. Question is, I think it's better than Nobody's Perfect. As much as I absolutely love Nobody's Perfect, I was at one of the shows that some of those songs are from. I kind of grew up on that. This one is just a performance-wise, the flow, everything about this is much better. If I was to rank it among the other live albums I've already done so far, going in chronological order from release date, I have it at number 4. I think Blackmore, just the Blackmore playing, especially that just straight up noise, nonsense jam in Speed King, is that what it is? Space Truckin'. Just, I love that. I love him just getting out there and crazy and like, indulging himself in some theatrics. So I have it at number 4. These are some pretty consistently good releases, but for me, number 4. Complaints, I drop the Ode to Joy song, and I wish the sound was a slightly little bit better. All right, but that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album, on Deep Purple and all that stuff. You know how all this works. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and go listen to Deep Purple. Go listen to this album. It's a really good listen. Might not sound the best at first, but it gets good. And Blackmore is on fire. All right, that's it. Peace. Stay warm. Talk to you later.